morning, everybody. Okay, we are so excited to have you here. I really want you to hear that. Doug is not making that up. The Champions of Change events for us are an opportunity to lift up incredibly important work that's going on all around the country. And this one feels pretty special because of what you do and how incredibly cool it is. So I had a chance to read the bios of the folks that we're honoring today. And I'm thrilled to be in your company and thrilled to welcome you to the White House. This is a big deal to us because it helps us make sure that that as we, work to govern and try to bring economic opportunity to every corner of this country, that we are making sure of really learning from the sort of hands and hearts that are out there doing the real work in the country and in the community day after day. You should know that you have a great advocate here at the White House in Doug McCaleb. I've learned a tremendous amount from him about the agricultural economy, about rural America. This is just something he's incredibly passionate about, and to have someone, who wakes up in the morning thinking about you and what you do every day, and wakes up in the morning not just working to advance your agenda, but making sure the rest of us are doing it as well, is incredibly valuable. It's been valuable to me as the leader of the Domestic Policy Council. And more importantly, it's been valuable in making sure that we make progress in every corner of this country, which is what this is all about. So this president is about making sure that we create economic opportunity all across the country, in every corner of this country. And agriculture has been a really bright spot in this economy. Right, so the president came in at a moment of sort of epic economic downturn. And at the same time, the past 5 years that he's been in office represent the strongest in history for agricultural trade. And last year, agricultural trade supported nearly 1 million jobs here at home. This is a great, bright spot in our economic story. I know that Secretary Vilsack is very, very eloquent about this point. And we are seeing new and diverse opportunities in agriculture through things like farmers markets, local and regional food systems, a growing organic sector, and the manufacturing of bio-based products. This is an area where there's tremendous innovation going on. It's incredibly exciting stuff. There is more opportunity now than ever in agriculture, and our challenge now is making sure that we cultivate the next generation of farmers and ranchers to take advantage of these opportunities and to make these economies even stronger. So that's why we're here, to honor you who are tackling this challenge head-on, starting agricultural businesses of your own, and inspiring others who are interested in careers in agriculture. And each of you are not only doing your part to strengthen this important sector, but you're also proving that the next generation of farmers and ranchers will draw from America's extraordinary diversity. It will include students returning home to farm with their families, veterans, second career seekers, immigrants, people from all ethnic backgrounds. This is an incredibly inspiring thing. So the idea of Champions of Change is that it's an opportunity for us to honor you, but also to highlight really the best and the brightest around the country, and really lift up incredible work that's going on that really should inspire people in every corner of this country. So we're just very much looking forward to continuing to be a good partner. We learned so much from being able to gather the expertise that's here in this room. And so while we hope that the work benefits from our opportunity to lift it up, I want you to know how much we benefit from learning from what you do. So now I have the great honor of introducing the Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Krista Harden. She has been a key leader in developing the next generation of farmers and ranchers. She is the daughter of farmers from Georgia. She knows personally the issues that face new farmers trying to get started on the land. She's working incredibly hard to make new resources available to farmers and ranchers as they begin their careers and businesses. This is work she lives and breathes every day. That comes right from her heart. She's also, in her spare time, leading efforts at USDA to implement the Farm Bill, which is no small undertaking. And that, of course, has all kinds of new key tools and resources for farmers. This is a big moment in this world, and we have extraordinary leadership at USDA with Secretary Vilsack and with Krista Harden, and it is my great pleasure to introduce her to you now.
Thank you, Director. And you don't understand, maybe if you don't understand how the White House works and who's who and who's where, for Director Munoz to have the time to come and visit with us is just extraordinary. I mean, it really, really is. She's one of the busiest person in this complex. People talk about how busy they are. She is. So thank you for squeezing us in. Your message was on spot, perfect. I'll tell the secretary, and he sends his regards to you. And again, thank you for you and your staff in supporting us and our mission here. So thank you. Also want to, before I get too much into all the things I have to say, boy, I have a whole stack of things I want to get to this morning, is to make sure that Doug McCaleb, who you'll be hearing from, who works with Director Munoz, is thanked, his staff, Kevin Bailey, who's done a great job, Lilia McFarland, who has worked in helping to organize this, my colleague Keith Kelly from the Department of Labor, a former USDA employee in another administration. It's so great to be able to show that this is not just about USDA. How the White House embraces this agenda and what we are doing to help promote new farmers and ranchers in our country. It is something the President believes in, and it's across the government. In any way that we can have support, we get it. So I thank you, Keith, for being here, and others for making this happen. When the President talks about champions of change in general, he talks about people doing extraordinary things. It's just a simple phrase, but I think it just really puts to heart a lot of what we're talking about when we think about new farmers and ranchers. I'm going to talk about the champions a lot, but I'm also going to talk about why this is so important, why we need to be thinking about who's going to be farming. I mean, there's some obvious reasons. We all like to eat, and I always say, some of us, like me, maybe a little bit more than I should. And we need people who are going to grow our food and fuel and fiber and other things that farmers do. Our population is going to be growing, maybe 9 billion by 2050. The average age of an American farmer is 58 years old. We've got to be thinking about who's that bench, who's coming up behind the great folks that we have farming now, who's that going to be? And it's tough. It's a tough profession. Anybody involved in agriculture, if they don't tell you that it's hard, they're not telling you the whole story. There's a lot of rewards. There's a lot of great, wonderful things I know firsthand from growing up on that farm in Camilla, Georgia. But I also know it's difficult, and margins are tight, and just as soon as you think you have a crop, a storm may come through, something may happen, and it does not work out. Your inventory, if it was at your factory, could be destroyed every year. Very high risk, a lot of folks. Come on in, Bev. Sorry to call you out, but it's good to see you. But one of the reasons this is so important to me is I'm facing some of these decisions firsthand at home. My parents are in the early 70s. My daddy still farms. We rent our land to the young guy who's in his late 60s. He calls him the young fella because he's younger than he is. We look at this every day. My sister and I don't have kids of our own. We're not on the farm every day, and we're facing with what's going to happen next. And I keep looking around in my home area about who's going to be there, who's going to be the ones to step up. I want to give an opportunity to some people, some young woman, some young man to help come to my farm. And I keep thinking about who's that going to be. And it may not be the traditional person that would have been even a few years ago. It may be a young woman. It may be a returning veteran. It may be a socially disadvantaged farmer. It may be an immigrant who came here as a worker and has decided to stay and raise their family here. That's what we're celebrating today. That whole list I just talked about is represented in our Champions of Change today. Just the richness and diversity of who's interested in agriculture, the folks who have that passion, just like I do for agriculture, we're going to celebrate them today. And it is a very diverse group. It's diverse in gender. We have men and women. We have sizes of operations that vary from very small to large. Conventional farming, organic. We have folks who have livestock, row crops, specialty crops. We have folks who farm all over the country. We have a very, very great story to tell. The face of agriculture is different, and it's changing all the time. And most people, most Americans don't realize that. So we've got to make sure we're telling our story. So we've encouraged all of our panelists, we've encouraged everybody here to make sure you are celebrating what you're doing, telling folks what you're doing, being a mentor or being a mentee, building that network for the next group of farmers. There's a lot of tools that we have at USDA. Our panelists heard about some of those yesterday. A lot of different things and resources we have at USDA and frankly across the government to help folks get into agriculture, help them stay in agriculture. I'm excited to make another announcement today, just one more tool of $9 million in grants available for community-based organizations to help provide technical assistance to socially disadvantaged farmers, to veterans, that another pot of money to really help folks with that technical assistance they may need to get started. We have, again, more and more resources that we're going to keep rolling out and working with the private sector, with others, to make sure that anybody who wants to get involved in agriculture can. The last thing I would want is somebody to say, I can't do it. I don't know how. I want to farm, but I can't. We want to make sure, and I know all of our partners in the room want to make sure that there are tools for anybody wanting to. And it's tough. Some folks don't have access to land. That's the first thing that you really need, right? Or some plot of something, maybe in an urban farm, it's aquaponics. But you need capital, and you also need business training. You need good technical assistance if you want to farm. It's not easy, as I discussed earlier. So USDA is working with all of our partners to make sure that you have those tools. Many of them are represented today, and I want to give just a couple of shout outs to some folks who have been so helpful, certainly FFA, 4-H, Farmers Union, Farm Bureau, the Farm Credit System, the commodity organizations, all of them reaching out and making sure that there is that pipeline. There is a way to get into agriculture if you want to do that. So I thank everyone who's done that. Another thing I just want to say to you today is all these folks in the front row and scattered throughout there, you are the face of agriculture today, but of tomorrow too, which is probably the most important thing. You are the face. You are who we're going to be. And I appreciate the time and effort that all of you have spent to be here, to tell your story, to make sure that this live stream and the videos in the future and the press you're going to do when you get home and the message that you have is understood and is heard, and continue to do that, because we've got to tell our story in a way that the American public can understand and connect to. It's a difficult story sometimes to tell. Folks don't always understand rural America, but I think it's up to us to use all the tools we have, with social media, with our voices that we have, to make sure that we communicate with everyone. You can't assume, so you kind of have to connect the dots. I do that all day long, every day. The secretary does that, and we encourage all of you to as well. You're going to meet our panelists in a little bit. We have two great panels. One of new farmers. We have another panel of organizations that are really out there trying to provide assistance and help to young farmers and new farmers and ranchers. So you're going to hear from both of these panels. There's some other folks in the audience I just want to make sure that I recognize. Two young women that I'm very, very close to are involved in agriculture, have gone back to their home areas and are really making a difference. Kate Danner, a soybean farmer in Illinois, Casey Cox from my hometown. I always embarrass them. I think they're going to quit coming to meetings because I always pick them out, but I thank them for being here and for their knowledge and the network that they try to create for other young women. Andrew Pitts from Iowa, great young man doing really exciting things. And Rita Jo Schultz from Alaska, who's growing flowers in Alaska, great peonies. So really appreciate those being in the audience as well and providing their expertise and their talent to furthering the opportunities for young farmers. We also have some Hill folks here. I appreciate them taking the time and supporting some of the panelists and participating in this. It's going to be a great day. Again, there's so much to talk about, and I am excited about the new opportunities, about how different and diverse we are, and how as an industry we are embracing that, how we are not seeing differences as a problem, but diversity as an opportunity and a way to really build, to bring more people into the fold, to be able to be better representative of our country and our world that we trade with. I told the FFA kids last week, I told some young farmers this week, it is a great, great time to be in agriculture. You look at what's happening in the world, you look at who wants our products, you look at what's happening with our trade numbers, you look at the opportunities. It is a wonderful time to be a farmer. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter about your resources. Now is the time, and I hope we can continue to tell that story. And as I look out at this room and I see the diversity and I feel the passion, I know the timing is just perfect for us. We've got to tell our story. That's why we're doing this event. That's why we continue to do events like this. I thank the White House, I thank the President personally for saying this is an important group to represent. This is an important story to tell. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your participation. We're going to learn a lot today. I think it's going to make you excited. You're going to want to support the folks who are talking today. You're going to want to do more with them and for them. But just remember, they're just a sampling. They're just a sampling of what's happening in the country. I know for a fact, if it can happen in my home county in southwest Georgia, Casey, it can happen anywhere. And it is happening. So make sure you tell your story. Make sure you listen. Thank you again. It's going to be a great morning. I appreciate the effort, the time that's gone into this, all the planning, all the work, all the travel. Everybody can always be somewhere else. We know that. But I want to make sure that you understand the richness of the groups that we have today. And again, they're just representative. And I would be remiss if I did not say our youngest panelist turned 18 yesterday. We didn't sing to you yesterday. I don't want to embarrass you today, Jesus, but thank you and to your parents for sharing you with us on your 18th birthday. He's got his FFA jacket on, of course. I hadn't seen him without it yet. He may sleep in it. But when I was talking to him yesterday, to hear his energy and his excitement about his future at 18 years old, knowing what he wants to do, what he wants to accomplish, it just really kind of summed up why we're here today. So happy birthday. Thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. Look forward to a good program. Already messed up.
So everybody, it's time to meet our champions. Champions, if you'll take off your green badges, don't lose them, but just stick them in your stuff. We're about to take some photographs and introduce you to folks. If you'll take off your badges and come wait right over here, we'll introduce you one at a time and we'll take your photo with the deputy.
Photo line.
Yes, indeed.
Who's taking the pictures? Oh, there's Letty, the camera.
Yes, ma'am.
What's in front of that?
Yes, ma'am. So first up is Ryan and Tiffany Batalden from Lamberton, Minnesota. Ryan and Tiffany are fifth-generation beginning farmers in Cottonwood County. They grow certified organic corn, soybeans, oilseeds, and small grains on 380 acres and own a small number of livestock. Ryan and Tiffany, if you'll just line up at the end of the stage. Next is Mr. Bill Bridgeforth with the National Black Growers Council from Tanner, Alabama. Mr. Bridgeforth is a fourth-generation farmer who grows cotton, corn, wheat, soybeans, and canola, and as chairman of the National Black Growers Council, he advocates on behalf of black farmers in the U.S. and abroad. Next up is Jake Carter with the American Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee from McDonough, Georgia. Jake Carter operates Southern Bell Farm, which is located just 30 miles outside of Atlanta in McDonough, Georgia. His farm consists of you-pick strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and peaches, as well as a fall corn maze and educational school tours. Next up is Kristen Fritz Kubisak. She's here today with MBG Marketing, the Blueberry People, but Kristen is the retail manager for Brookside Farms, a fifth-generation family farm located in southwest Michigan. Next up is Lee Haynes with Nature's Best Egg Company from Coleman, Alabama. Lee Haynes is an egg farmer and will graduate from the Alabama Leaders for Agriculture 2-year leadership program in August. Next up is Melinda Litvinus. Melinda is the manager for the University of Delaware Creamery at the University of Delaware's College of Ag and Natural Resources. Melinda leads the student interns and employees through hands-on experience at the creamery as they learn the process of operating an agricultural business. Next up is Jacob Hunt with Windy Brow Farms in New Jersey. Jake is the managing partner for Windy Brow Farms and worked closely with Melinda in developing the University of Delaware Creamery. Next up is Lindsay Lusher-Shute with the National Young Farmers Coalition in New York. Lindsay is the co-founder and executive director for National Young Farmers. Led by young farmers, NYFC advocates for policy change, provides business services, and creates networking opportunities for young farmers. Adam McClung, Executive Vice President, Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. Adam was raised on a cow-calf operation in central Arkansas, and together with his wife, runs 7 Diamond 3 McClung Cattle Company near El Paso, Arkansas. Next up is Fabiola Nzigimiana from Massachusetts.
Oh, what a gorgeous outfit. Beautiful.
Fabiola is a Burundian refugee farmer and single mother of 5 who speaks 5 languages. She was a founding member of the Immigrant Farmer Marketing Cooperative and participates at Flat's Mentor Farm. Next up is Quint Pottinger, owner of Affinity Farms in New Haven, Kentucky. It is a mixed row crop and herb farm in Kentucky, and Quint currently serves on the Kentucky Soybean Board Association, serving in a leadership education capacity. Next up is Jesus Rodriguez from Washington State. Jesus was born in Los Angeles, California, the son of Mexican and El Salvadorian immigrants. He hopes to enter the tree fruit industry as a field representative and one day hopes to own his own orchard.
Come on. Got it? All right, we got it.
Next up is Ade Romero with the Cochiti Youth Experience in New Mexico. Ade Romero is a Cochiti Puebloan and Kiowa Indian, born on the Pueblo in New Mexico as the granddaughter of a Pueblo farmer. She attended the University of Arkansas School of Law program and now works with the Intertribal Ag Council. This isn't in the bio, but she also just won a Fulbright.
Oh, wow.
Pierre Slayman, founder and CEO of Go Green Agriculture in California. Pierre is the founder and CEO of Go Green, an innovative company that produces produce in the climate-controlled greenhouses using hydroponics, a method of growing plants without soil.
Got it? All right.
Next up, Beth Thart from Coatesville, Indiana. Beth is a second-generation farmer who, along with her husband and parents, owns and operates Legan Livestock and Grain, a commercial swine, corn, and soybean farm in west central Indiana. And last but not least, Desiree Wineland from Cambridge, Nebraska. Desiree Wineland was born in Sweden and moved to the United States, where she became a U.S. citizen and serves in the United States Army. Desiree and her family call Cambridge, Nebraska home, where she raises grapes, operates a butcher shop, and completed the Nebraska Lead Program, Nebraska Ranch Practicum, and Cow-Calf College. So, we'll get to hear much more in depth from these folks on the panel that follows, but if everyone will come assemble, I'm sorry this is a little awkward, but if you'll come line up at the front of the stage, we'll take one big group photograph and then transition to the first panel.
This first half, we'll come right here up in front of the stage, and then we'll bring
One way, then one without. And now, Deputy, if you'll join them.
Paparazzi, wow. I didn't know y'all quite so celebrity. Couple more.
And with that, we'll transition to our first panel. This first panel is a very exciting one. It is being moderated by Doug McCaleb, who is the Senior Advisor for Rural Affairs here at the White House. We'll have our first panel champions come file in with their name cards. And with that, I'll turn it over to Doug.
Let's go to panelists to grab seats as they get to the stage. Yeah, please sit down.
Okay.
We're rubbing elbows today. Great. Well, welcome, panelists. I'll tell you, just hearing the introductions and the diversity of locations around the country, the types of operations. It's just really exciting to have you all be here. I think we have about 4 minutes per panelist, and rather than hear me talk, we really want to hear them talk. So I'm going to start with Ryan and Tiffany. One of the things that really appealed to me in your background is that in addition to being your 5th generation, you've got a heck of a farm heritage in your families. You all decided to carry on the mantle and take it maybe in some new directions. And since this is a Champions event, maybe we can hear from Ryan and Tiffany a little bit about the things that they've done differently than maybe in the past in your family's farming operations. And you also have a popcorn operation, which is fantastic. I think in my family we have popcorn every night. It's like before you brush your teeth. It's a requirement that you have popcorn beforehand. So Ryan and Tiffany, we could turn over. You're interested to hear about your background and sort of that forging into new areas in agriculture.
Sure. Yeah, we're 5th generation farmers. I guess part of the transitioning and like you said, to keep it going in the next generation and to kind of try things different, my parents had got into the USDA organic program and certified organic before we started farming, so that really gave us a big leap forward as far as continuing to earn a living off the land without having to expand or without having to add too much capital to it. That's been a big part of it. It's also been diversifying the types of crops we grow. I guess, especially with the smaller mid-sized farms, I think they're starting to realize the old way of doing things as far as the strength of a farm is being very diversified is actually quite important. We're trying to grow several different, 3, 4, or 5 different crops every year instead of 2, which helps spread out the workload but also spreads out the risk. The commodity markets can be so volatile. In conventional or organic pricing, it's the same. It can be pretty wild, unpredictable. So trying different crops and having a small herd of livestock, that's how we first started too, was direct marketing beef to consumers. And then Tiffany came up with the idea for us to start a popcorn business. And we're up to 4 acres now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say anything about it?
Well, we started with 1 acre 3 years ago, and it's been going really well every year, and so now we're up to 4 acres, and I do direct marketing. We're in grocery stores, food co-ops, and a lot of it has been word-of-mouth advertising has worked best for us because it's great popcorn.
Yeah, it's worked
Patriot
well.
Pops, we call it. We grow red, white, and blue popcorn, and that we market it as Patriot Pops. So that's been fun. It's something I can do. I stay at home with our 3 kids, and it's just been really nice that I've been able to do something value added to the farm, as well as being a stay-at-home mom. So that's been a great joy for me.
And the diversification, like I said, of our incomes is that we're slowly growing that business. It shows too, I mean, commodity crops are our bread and butter, but also complementing that with less traditional commodity crops and livestock, and now direct marketing popcorn is, I would say to any young farmer getting started, you probably can't get into it the same way your parents did, or the generation before you, whether you came from farming or not. You're gonna have to not only work hard, but you gotta work smart. You gotta try to stay one step ahead of certain trends or to go with these trends and to make it work.
Great. One of the difficulties always, farming is hard enough as it is, but to direct market, to sell popcorn, that requires a lot of administrative pieces to it. How have you all been able to handle that and sort of balance the pure farming operation with also handling, the paperwork and the direct customer link there?
Oh, the best we can, I guess. It's you can't. I think now a lot of times you can't get into farming thinking you just want to work only with the plants and the animals, which is the fun part, really, why you get into it. But you have to work with people too, and you have to. Yeah, the marketing part. You have to learn to deal with people, not just plants and animals, which is very different. But as for anyone beginning in farming, I think they're really seeing that, and with the growing popularity and whether it's organic or regional, local food systems, it makes it a lot easier. It makes people sometimes come to you for a special type of popcorn or something grown in their area. That's really helped, I think.
Great. In terms of that link with people, and I saw Beth kind of smile down there at that last comment, she has been working a lot with her community over just awareness of agriculture and linking it with the community. So Beth, could you share with us your story and what that link to the community really means?
Sure. Well, I'm second generation farmer, West Central Indiana, farm with my husband and parents. League and Livestock and Grain is the name of our operation. Our primary focus is in swine production. We have 3,000 sows, producing about 78,000 pigs per year. Also farm about 1,000 acres of corn and soybeans. As we talk about community relations and education of consumers, Nick and I are both involved in a lot of community organizations. We serve somewhat as ag liaisons. For example, I serve on our local economic development board, and I bring a different set of experiences to that board and can share how agriculture plays an important role in our community. We also work with the National Pork Board through Operation Main Street program, where we go to different civic organizations within our region and talk about what we do on our farm, how we care for our animals, how we have the moral obligation to make sure that they are cared for in the best manner.
Great, great. What would you say has been the biggest challenge in terms of just the community awareness piece, and what have you found most of your time being focused on in that capacity rather than just the agricultural capacity?
Sure. One interesting comment he had is, it's fun to work with the animals and the crops, and it brings a whole another aspect when there's people involved. So I find a lot of my time not necessarily working directly with the animals, but there's a lot of thoughts out there about how agriculture is done, how animals are raised, how crops are raised, and some of those aren't true, unfortunately. And we feel as a part of our family, a part of our farm, we want to share with everyone how we raise our animals, how we care for them, what technologies we utilize, and how that plays into the big picture of feeding not only our community, feeding not only the domestic market, the United States, but we take a global focus. A lot of our pork products are exported abroad, so we think it's important to look at the big picture and how the technologies we utilize and the practices we utilize in a sustainable manner are in the good for not just our community, like I said, not just the domestic market, but the entire world.
Great. And what changes have you seen just in terms of the way the community views your operation or other farmers in your area, just say over the last 5 years? Has there been a shift that you have observed in that work?
Sure. I think, well, fortunately, my parents had established a good foundation as they brought up our farm to where it is now. But with some of the work Nick and I have done, and we're not the only people in our community that represent agriculture, but we've been able to do some different local programs where we can educate people. We utilize Facebook extensively. We'll go through our barns and take a picture with our iPhone and post it on Facebook. So really this whole transparency thing, we're able to become much more transparent with those in our community and those who follow what we do.
Great, great. Thank you, Beth. Beside you, Desiree, all the discussion of just it's more than animals and plants, but working with people. You have an amazing background that involves many different experiences, from Harvard to Cambridge to War College and so forth. What led you ultimately to work with grapes in the butcher shop and in agriculture, given all of your diverse background and everything that you've seen over time?
Well, I think after we retired, our goal, both Cal and I, our goal was to really find a way to promote education and then also preserve the legacy of agriculture. And so when we came out there, the best thing is kind of sit and watch and learn, because we really didn't know anything. We had no experience in agriculture, and the beauty of agriculture is that there are no prerequisites. It really is your desire, your passion that I think everybody shares to get into there, at least to start with. So you plant the seed. When we started helping, I started reading the history of Nebraska, and what I found in the history pages was that Nebraska, the immigrants that came over, actually had planted grapes. And I thought that was fascinating, because I could build the best corn maze in Nebraska, but I don't know if all my friends will come out there for that. But if I've been in a vineyard, and we kind of used the vineyard as a tool for education, I think they'd come out there. And so we started working with the American Chemistry Society, or Chemical Society, and we started a chem club with our high school. Because as with agriculture, I learned there's a lot of chemistry involved. And so we had 29 members that we started, and that's grown each year, and we've used the vineyard as a field lab on that. I started taking classes. Cal and I went to the Cow-Calf College. We went to the Nebraska Ranch Practicum, and then we were honored and accepted into the Nebraska LEAD program, which is a 2-year program that really exposed us to the world of agriculture, not only in Nebraska, but nationally and then globally with our seminars that we traveled overseas. And that really opened the world to agriculture and a deeper appreciation for what we do in Nebraska. And from there, it was just learning that these legacy farms that are over 100 years old, they're small family farms and they just can compete with a lot of the large-scale productions. And so without any experience, we ended up buying a locker, which is like a small processing plant. And we worked with USDA. Just last week, we have our final inspector full-time with us, which is great. And we process for these small farmers and ranchers that couldn't sustain their farms. And so that's a great way. And now we're trying to, we've always been advocate for the farmer school program, being a mother of 2 great boys. But now we're trying to partner and work with FFA and 4-H to have the kids there actually produce their products right there and feed it to the school. And I think that can work in many of our fields and kind of keep it locally and have the kids take pride in having their names up on there saying that this beef or this garden was provided by so-and-so. So we've really enjoyed it, and we have a great team. It's all about promoting teamwork. We're grateful for the Chemical Society. We're involved in the NRCS for being the Conservation Stewardship Program. That was wonderful, and we thank the website designers on both the USDA and the Small Business Administration, because those websites really get the information to us kind of in the middle of nowhere where we are. So we're grateful for that opportunity.
Great, great. A lot of innovation there happening, and just incredible diversity to have both the butcher operation and the vineyard piece all happening together. So that's really tremendous. You mentioned, observing is the first important part. What would be something that you learned from just your neighbors there in terms of agriculture that has helped you with the operation, things that maybe you've been able to apply to your own specific program there?
Sure. I think one of the lessons that I can remember is when we wanted to plant the vineyards out there. You listen to the old farmers. There's always a coffee shop in our little towns, and they kind of congregate after they're in from the fields about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And so that's when I would go, because that's where the smart people are that are talking about this. And they had said that when you plant, wait till after Mother's Day out in Nebraska, because there's usually a heavy frost or a hailstorm or something that'll come in. And that really was applicable because we were ready to plant. The vines have showed up. We were anxious to go, and we waited from Friday through Monday, and sure enough, Sunday on Mother's Day, there was a huge hailstorm. So sometimes it's just those kind of, little information and tidbits that kind of make sense that we've enjoyed. So.
Great. Thank you, Desiree. One part of agriculture is incredibly important to learn from those who have the institutional knowledge and the experience. On the other hand, I wanted to turn to Pierre, and Pierre, if you could talk about you're bringing sort of cutting-edge technology and the latest learning from university to bear. So if you would share with us your story, your background, and kind of what you're working on right now.
Sure, definitely. First of all, I just want to say thank you. There's so many hardworking and innovative Americans out there, well deserving of recognition, that it's an honor to be up here with all the panelists. When I came home, I studied computer science engineering, and I said I wanted to become a farmer. My dad turned to me and said, why don't you get a real job? and I have no family lineage in farming whatsoever, no education, nothing at all. And I don't think it gets any more real than what I've been doing. I discovered I always liked technology, engineering, mathematics, the science. And one day I discovered that agriculture has all of these components, and that in fact, that the youth today isn't really aware that all of these components are highly applicable to agriculture. And I think that if they knew that, so many more would be interested to get into it. Agriculture is actually really cool, in my opinion, because of that. I mean, there's so many things we could bring in: computer science, robotics, automation, engineering, chemistry, biology. All those things are really awesome. So the flavor that I try to bring to what I do is to bring kind of a more systematic approach to producing food. So I have an urban farm. I grow between a house on the left and a house on the right. I'll have about 5 acres by the end of the summer under controlled environment greenhouse structures. I grow hydroponically, so without soil, organically certified, and we'll be producing about 500,000 heads of spinach, lettuce, and kale per month, year-round, with no interruption. And that's because of the technology that we employ. We use less water and inputs. So it's really kind of an innovative look at the way we do things. And it's that innovation, creativity, and energy that I look to try to inspire in youth. I give presentations to elementary schools. For example, a couple months ago, I went up in front of about 300 kids, and I was wearing these big old overalls and a straw hat. And as I'm giving the presentation, I start getting undressed. And you could hear, oh, he's getting naked. And I'm taking off the straps and the hat, and then underneath I'm wearing a suit. And I just wanted to show them that what you think a farmer is and does is not necessarily that stereotypical, person, and that there's so many opportunities, and that if you could apply creativity from diverse fields, we could bring this kind of youth and new solutions to some of the challenges that we face in unique ways.
Peter, taking on that sort of dual role there of the traditional farmer, but also the businessman, you mentioned producing 500,000 units. How are you then connecting that with market? What has been the steps that you've had to go through to figure out, okay, we can grow this hydroponically, we can do it year-round. Now we have to find a place to actually get that to the consumer. How is that going, and what has been your experience there?
Well, starting from the ground up with no experience, it was very tough. My first order was for a couple cases of lettuce, and I was so excited, and I went back, and then I said, well, what's a case? So, it really was the ground up approach where I went out and knocked on doors and said, this is what I do, this is who I am. And at first, you lack that credibility because you don't have the track record, but you slowly build it up. And over time, we've been able to get into the big box stores and kind of really approach it from a very systematic point of view. And I think it really is just perseverance and just unrelenting hard work, which I think farmers are very used to.
Great, thank you. Maybe taking that and transition to Fabiola, because one of the challenges is making the connection. Hopefully you've got producers in your area who have got institutional knowledge, or you've got a heritage in it. Fabiola, you work a lot with socially disadvantaged farmers, and if you could share us sort of what that entails and what the challenges are and how you've been able to overcome and to make a difference in your work.
The first of all, I am a refugee. I grew up in a family as a farmers. They didn't go to school. They don't do another things except farming. Since I was a child, I helped my parents. I go to the school. After school, I have to go to help them doing farming. When I came here in 2007, I didn't know any word. I can't speak any word in English. It was not easy for me to find any place I can grow the food. I tried to find someone who can speak my language, and I found one woman from Kenya who speaks Swahili, and she took me to the church, and I told the priest the problem I have, because in my life I feel I want to be a farmer. And the priest tried to help me to find where I can find a small place to grow the vegetables. And we found the woman sitting up there, Maria. And I start growing the vegetable with a small place, 25 feet by 100. And the vegetables came good. That time I grew some carrot greens, green peppers, and I take small piece for beans and corns. Everything was very, very good. And after the next year, that time was to 2010. At 2011, I asked the landlord to give me another piece. And also was good. And Maria showed me the door to go to USDA. I thank USDA and NRCS to help me to get a high tenor. Now I own my 1 acre, and I have good vegetables inside high tenor, and outside Highton. Now, I'm so happy, and thank you, USDA and NRCS. Now, farming is very, very good. It's very important in the country, in the whole world. Because what I know, no country can live without farmers. We can do other jobs, we can have money, but where are we gonna find the food? No way. Without to have some people who can do farming and we can give them our money and have food. And with my 5 kids, some of them, they don't like farming, but other, they like farming. Yeah. Now, I'm so happy I have one. My first child is 21. Right now I'm sitting here, but I know he's in the farm watching my vegetables. Yeah. And now I'm so happy to be here. Since I came in America, it's the first time I travel. When I came, my first place is Worcester. I still living in Worcester. I'm never moved. This is my first time to be out of Worcester. Thank you very much.
And Fabiola, we're so excited that you're here. You mentioned having the high tunnel through the USDA programs.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone just like you who maybe is interested, not sure how to start up? What would be some advice that you would give that person on how to do what you have done and succeed?
Yeah, and what now there is difference between growing vegetables inside the greenhouse and outside of greenhouse. Greenhouse helped me to get vegetables like 3 or 4 weeks before other people start selling vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still have vegetables at that 3 or 4 weeks after other people outside, they can't harvest anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy for that.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Fabiola. Let's turn to Lee. Lee, you have a business background, and I think whereas most of our panels so far have been a little bit more on the crop side, you've got eggs. So tell us a little bit about your background and how your business background has applied to that as a new and beginning farmer.
Okay. Yeah, along with my family, we operate Nature's Best Egg Company in north central Alabama in Coleman County. We produce, package, and distribute table eggs. My dad purchased the farm when I was in high school, and so that's why I decided to go to business school, because it was kind of an evolving business at the time I was going to college. We started out as a contract producer for another processing plant. About the time I was fixing to graduate from college, we decided to go independent and market our own eggs. So we had to go out, and I dealt with some of the same things like Pierre was talking about, find our own customers and develop a brand and get that in stores. So that's where my business background come into play. Also, I'm involved in the Alabama's Farmers Federation. I'm the county chairman of our local Young Farmers Group. I am in about a week going to graduate from the Alabama Agricultural Leaders Programs, Leadership Development Program for the state. Through this, I have developed a passion for promoting agriculture. I've tried myself to tell my story about, I'm the farmer, this is what I do, this is why I do it. I'm looking out for consumers, trying to efficiently and safely produce you food. And I think it's important for all farmers to make a bigger effort to do that, to let people know that we're the farmers, and that way they will turn to us if they have questions about agriculture.
Great. Appreciate that. Hey, Jesus, we haven't heard from you yet. Could you tell us a little bit about your background? You were born in Los Angeles, which is not an area you normally have picture a farmer coming from, but you have your FFA jacket on. It's so great to see you have that on. And tell us a little bit about your work in Washington State and kind of where you're heading next.
Okay. All right. Well, I was born in Los Angeles, California, like you mentioned, to parents of Mexican and El Salvadoran immigrants. At the age of 5, we moved from California up to a small town that's primarily focused on the tree fruit industry in that region in Washington State. And both my parents are actually employed in the tree fruit industry. My father works or picks in many orchards, and my mom actually sorts the fruit at a fruit warehouse. And at the age of 8, I began to work alongside my dad in many orchards within a 1-hour radius of my home. And I harvest apples, pears, cherries, and perform jobs and tasks that are needed at an orchard. And I've been doing that ever since. And from that work experience and that constant exposure to the tree fruit industry, I plan to pursue a degree in horticulture. I will obtain this education at Wenatchee Valley College to obtain my Associate of Science in Tree Fruit Production and transfer to Washington State University to culminate my 4-year study. And I use to become a field representative, and I'll work a bit in the field representative type of work and use the funds from my career to purchase and own my own orchard one day.
That's great, Jesus. One of the, we have a challenge in terms of the number of individuals involved in farming and the age of the American farmer. You are excited to get in the business that your parents have been in, to get the horticulture degree, to back that up, to work with it. Kind of, if you could share with us, what was the motivation for that? Was it seeing your parents, and how would you like to apply your horticulture background in the future? What sort of dream do you have what the tree fruit industry could look like with the background that you're getting in terms of your education?
Well, I see myself purchasing land and or maybe purchasing an orchard already there that's productive, and I know that I could, make some good money off of that, and I'll just expand and try to implement new varieties that we don't see back home, and just go from there.
Great. And how have your parents, have they been receptive to the idea of you getting into the business? Are they excited for you to do that work?
Yeah, at first they're a little skeptical. They're like, why would you go to this industry? Because they think I'm going to be a farm worker all the time. And then I had to explain to them, well, I'm doing this. And after I told them, they were more aware of what I'm doing, and they like what I'm pursuing after high school. But.
Great, thank you, Jesus. Quint, many of the folks around the table have talked about working with organizations outside of their regular farming operation, whether it be in Alabama with some of the leadership programs or other civic organizations within the community. You're getting involved with a lot of ones in Kentucky. Could you share with us what that has been like and sort of what your goal has been participating with those organizations? You want to have a take-home or something that you want to advance, and share with us what that has been for you.
Yes, I guess my passion for agriculture started when a over persistent ag teacher told me if I wanted to make a difference in my industry and change this world, I was going to have to get out from behind the tractor seat and stop making passes all day long, and she was right. Over the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity to travel with the help of the American Soybean Association, United Soybean Board, and the Corn Growers Association. I've been able to travel across this country and look at the challenges that the American agriculture industry is facing, the challenges that many farmers face and young farmers are facing to get involved in the industry. Last year, I had the opportunity to travel to the Panama Canal and look at the expansion and figure out and learn exactly how that's really helping our competitive advantage for American ag, and what it's going to do to help us open up foreign markets and access new markets we've never been able to access before. And it's going to help all of our producers and young producers that are coming into it. We ended that trip in Colombia at a soy processing plant that was owned by a company that purchased soybeans from the United States. And I guess it's when it became real to me. We always like to tell ourselves we're feeding the world, but that soy processing plant was more like a soup kitchen that was helping to feed the less fortunate people in that community. And to know that my soybeans could be going to that community to help feed them, it was real. It opened my eyes. Earlier this year, I got to go to South Africa with the Kentucky Ag Leadership Program, which is kind of like the Alabama and the Nebraska programs. And we learned about how that continent is growing and expanding, and how South Africa is trying to become a hub for all growth to filter up into that country. And that continent is going to see population growth unlike anything we've ever seen before. And they need help. And you ask the farmers there, what are your challenges? what are we doing? Can we help? And they tell you all the great things that they're doing. They're adopting technology. They're learning about it, and they look to you, and it's like, you're going to help us, right? And so the one thing I've got from this, being involved in these organizations, is learning that the American farmer is being looked to by the rest of the world to feed this world. And, you know, I don't know that I would trust any other group of people with such a task, because every farmer that I've known has always seen a task all the way through. And I can say I'm so proud to be a part of a program like that. You know, we're doing a lot of things with the Kentucky Soybean Association with investing in soy meal and opening markets to help the aquaculture industry. We're doing a lot of investments with infrastructure. The National Corn Growers Association is helping make Congress aware of the problems that we have with our own infrastructure and the things that we need to be doing to improve that. And I would encourage any farmer on the panel, I know many of you probably are involved, to get involved with your commodity groups, to get involved with your farm programs, because they are helping us change our industry and they're helping us feed this world.
Great, thank you, Quint. And, you know, your point about just the rest of the world looking to the American producer for food is, you know, is incredibly right on track. The export numbers that Deputy Secretary Hardin talked about earlier certainly bear those out. At the same time, we have many domestic consumers and consumers that still don't really appreciate where their food comes from. You know, they think it's the grocery store. They don't see the farmer behind it, which this panel, I think, really exemplifies the breadth and diversity of where our food comes from. It's really an incredible system. So I would open this question up to really everyone on the panel, and if anyone would like to comment on it, we'd really like to hear what you're thinking. If you could really share one thing with the public about that, about your farm, about what farmers mean, what would you like to make sure that the consumers out there are aware of?
I'll take that. You know, my wife and I, we started Affinity Farms to try to reconnect with the consumer, because they are disconnected. If I was to tell the American consumer, we care about our crops. We're not out there just trying to gain a dollar. I mean, we have to be sustainable. We have to be socially, environmentally, and economically sustainable if we want to continue to produce. And if I don't have livestock, but I have many friends that have livestock, and if they don't care for their animals, they don't have the animals. They don't have a product to sell. And so what we do on our farms is like taking care of our own kids, you know.
Great. Others on the panel?
I would add on to that from a livestock perspective. Like I said, we raise pigs, and I mean, we feel that we have a moral obligation to provide the best care possible to our animals. I mean, we say we take care of the animals, and we feel that the animals are going to take care of us. I can't tell you the amount of hours we spend in the barns ensuring that our animals, you know, have a comfortable environment, are getting the nutrition they need, or are getting the procedures or whatever they need to be healthy and to take off. So we feel like we have that obligation, not only internally, but also as we provide people with food, we want to make sure that their food is grown in a sustainable and meaningful manner.
Anyone else like to comment? Yeah, Pierre.
I'd like to just throw something in for kids. For me, I think that farming, as I was mentioning earlier, is something that kids aren't aware of being cool. My wife is a 6th grade teacher, and I go in every year and I do a quick lesson on farming and hydroponics, and they are so fascinated when they see just how plants work and how they grow, that I think it's twofold. That one will help inspire kids if we could kind of instill that at an earlier age in elementary school. One, that agriculture, how important it is, the opportunities that are in agriculture, and two, it also just teaches them about nutritional and health, and it kind of connects them with their food source. And so, I mean, it really balances that out in several ways. So that's all. I mean, to me, it's about getting kids really energized about it at a young age. I think that is our source of bringing innovation, creativity, and young farmers into the industry, which obviously is something that we need to be doing.
Good. Lee, did you have a last word on that?
Yes. You know, most people, I don't think, realize the amount of research and technology that really is involved in agriculture today. So I just like to try and encourage other farmers to put your skills on display and show people. And also encourage consumers to make connections in the agricultural community to see that. And there's a lot of opinions out there, but, you know, all farmers that I know are using scientifically proven methods because we care about our consumers, we care about our land, and we care about our animals.
Great, great. Well, I think we're out of time for this panel, but I just want to thank you for all that you're doing. It's really amazing to hear the stories from different parts of the nation, different approaches, different kinds of operations. I know you have a chance a little bit later today to visit our White House garden, the First Lady and President's garden down in the front, in the South Lawn. And know that just our efforts here, and it's very important for the President to get the word out about where food comes from, make sure the consumers are aware of it. So please join me in thanking our panel here for all their work.